Hello and happy new year. Welcome to EEXSport Talk. I am your host, Gift C Enyadike Jr., here with my dad, the legend Emeka Enyadike. We are officially in 2026, but the 2025 AFCON is still going, and we are in the round of 16. Knockouts. No tomorrow, no second chances, no excuses. Do or die. Our first game to look at is Sudan versus Senegal. Dad, this is a very weird one. Sudan qualified without scoring a single goal at all. They did not. Their one victory, their one goal was an own goal. Senegal, they are a top three favorite. And obviously they've got their players like Sadio Mane and Nicholas Jackson, the latter of whom has actually been really, really, you know, I wouldn't say he's just been really performing up front. What do you think about this one?
It's a game that looks like a runaway fixture for Senegal, just based on their form. But Sudan, make no mistake about it, they have bigger motivation. They're a country at war. They may not have the star power, but they do have something that works for them. They have two clubs that do very well in Africa, Al Merrikh and especially Al Hilal, who are always in the Champions League and they do very well. So that keeps them very competitive. And despite the fact that they're playing against teams with European-based players, they're playing against an African team and their boys are very primed for it. And they've got, like I said, they've got the motivation. And they have a coach in Kwesi Appiah, who's a Ghanaian legend, former captain, former Ghanaian coach, and someone with a great deal of understanding, who knows the Senegalese players very well and will come up with a plan. Yes, they might not have been good in terms of goal scoring, but like you said in your intro, this is the round of 16. There are no second chances. They have to find a way. To be honest, they don't need to score to win through this group. They just need to hold on and maybe go through on penalties. So it pressures on Senegal. They have a team of experts there. They know how to win. They would have won the AFCON not too long ago. They still have a lot of those players, and they have a lot more talent that's come through. And their team selection is a headache for whoever is a coach anytime, and not different this time around. I think it's a game that should go to Senegal. I think so. I think it should go to Senegal. But like I said, Sudan will put up a fight, definitely. But I'm going for Senegal.
Okay. Next one, Mali and Tunisia. Yeah, this one I'm not even sure about it because Mali, they went in here with all draws, which is not bad, but it's not great either, especially when we're about to enter the stage of like I said, one and dones. Tunisia, they were up and down. It was a win, then it was a loss, and it was a draw. And their coach, Sammy Trabelsi, he's out now. He's saying, he's publicly called for a mental reset. So you've got one team coming in, mentally resetting, and another team who's been steady but unspectacular. Which team do you think has the edge in this one?
On the surface, I would have given Tunisia a bet because I saw their first game. They were very, very, very good against Nigeria. They were not in the races at all. They were just totally dominated by Nigeria. Yes, they came back, eventually made the scoreline look like it was a bit more respectable at 3-2, but for like 80% of that
That's
game,
more Nigeria. Let's be clear. That's more
totally
Nigeria.
dominated by Nigeria, and then against Tanzania in the last game, you saw just how vulnerable they can be. I'm gonna go for a Mali win because, again, like as in the case with Sudan, sometimes the end justifies the means. You have to make it at the group stage. The goal is to make it through. How you make it through doesn't matter. You could go like Nigeria, win all your games, score a lot of goals, or you could just manage to pull through. And sometimes teams then, once they've managed to survive this group stage, they then find their bearing. And Mali are a team that sometimes underperforms the quality of their assets, the quality of the team and players that they have. At the last AFCON, they were really good. They were coached by Excel, who's currently a Nigerian coach, and they lost dramatically against Cote d'Ivoire. They might have learned something from that. And this Tunisian team is there for the taking because, for the most part, they are very set up like the Italians. They want to wait and hit you on the counter. They have some talented players, but my take will be Mali.
Yeah. You spoke of finding your bearings, and you mentioned Tanzania. Tanzania, they made it into the round of 16 for the first time in 45 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they are about to play the hosts. And quite like going into this tournament, the undisputed, in everybody's minds, favorites, that being Morocco. But Morocco did not have a perfect group stage. They won twice, they drew once, so they never lost, but you know, but still, so on the one hand, you've got Tanzania who they've made history already just by qualifying. And they've essentially got nothing to lose, basically. They've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Morocco, they're the host nation. They're the favorites in most people's minds to win the entire tournament. The fans in those stands, we've spoken a lot about the fans in attendance. They're there for the Morocco. They're there to support their boys, their men, to see them break through. And in the global context, they are looked at as the top team in Africa or one of the top teams in Africa. So do you think that like they can like the pressure that they can navigate through that pressure and make sure that they go through, or does Tanzania, knowing that now, okay, we've made history, is that going to be a case of we made it, we made it for the first time, this is enough, or no, we're going all the way with this, we've proven we can get to this point, let's get this incredible, let's get this huge upset. What are your thoughts there?
This is a very tricky fixture. Tanzania, I think it kind of is a fixture that's very perfect for Tanzania, because if there was ever a need for a preparation for this game, they didn't think they would make it through, especially after getting to the last game and looking like they were going to be out. But playing against Tunisia is the best preparation they have for Morocco. And surviving Tunisia gives them motivation to say, hey, look, we were able to take this North African power. And Tunisia and Morocco, to be honest, not a lot to choose between them. Yes, Morocco currently have a lot more pedigree and a lot more achievements coming from the last World Cup and now. But Morocco is always they've always flattered when it comes to AFCON. If there's a team that has pressure in this tournament, it is Morocco. Tanzania have nothing to lose. They've already made history. They're where no one expected them to be. But then this is where it becomes handy that the Tanzanian team has a lot of players from Yanga and Simba. They're twin rivals in Dar es Salaam who have been pulling their weight in Africa. And so they're going to go into this game, again, looking for a chance to drag the game out and maybe pull it onto penalty. So the onus is on Morocco to try and score early. Otherwise, if the pressure keeps going, we might see the first upset in this tournament. But I'll still stick out my neck and say Morocco probably might be too strong for Tanzania. But with the caveat, they have to score early. And not just score one goal, they have to really put Tanzania under the cosh. But if they keep it at 1-0 or they don't get a goal early, the more the pressure goes, the more Tanzania will find a way in this game.
Now, the longer it goes, that score early thing. I already talked about this. If a team scores early, I get scared. Like that's trauma for forever. So score early, sure, but maybe not too early, and maybe not resting on your laurels. Like you said, you got to keep that pressure going on, because the longer it goes, the more chances there are for a comeback. If there isn't an early goal, that means there's a chance of Tanzania pulling ahead, even if it's just momentarily. But that kind of thing, that can disrupt confidence. It can disrupt flow. It can scare people. So the Moroccans, they definitely have to. They can't afford to take this one lightly. They cannot. Our next game is the classic Southern versus Central Africa. South Africa, Cameroon. Both teams, they've got pedigree in this tournament. They both won it. But the knockouts, it's a beast. What tactical battle do you expect here? Is it experience, structure, flair, individual talent? What do you think is going to be the deciding factor going into this game?
The coach of South Africa, Hugo Bruce, is the guy who took Cameroon to their last AFCON title. There's a lot riding in this game. It's a game that is looking like one of the epic battles of this tournament. The Cameroonian team came in here with being written off because of all the chaotic way they started. But they are a team that's got pure AFCON pedigree. They know how to play this tournament, and they've got the players to do it. But I do think that Hugo Bros will be the deciding factor. He's managed to get the South African team really to believe, and they've been doing pretty well in this and in the entire period under his reign, both at AFCON and World Cup qualifiers. I think South Africa will edge it, just because South Africa has overcome the fear factor, which used to be their limitation in the past. And going back to AFCON 96, South Africa beat Cameroon, surprisingly. So South Africa fears certain countries. They used to fear Nigeria so much, not so much. They used to fear Egypt a lot, but not so much. So they've gotten to a point where they almost kind of feel like, I mean, last time they upset Morocco. They didn't get to the semifinals last time by fluke. I think that Hugo Bros will have a solution to how they'll get past Cameroon. So I'm going for South Africa in that game.
We've got Egypt versus Benin. Now Egypt, they completely topped their game, their group. Although in the last group stage, it was notably they rested Mohamed. I think that by that point they were already in. So saving for the big for the for the stakes, for the high stakes games like this one. And Benin, they've shown that they've been taking me quite competitive. Egypt, they like to dominate possession, but like do they? But Benin is a very resilient side. So what are you expecting with this point?
I think it will be a good fight. I think Benin did well to get through the group stage. Their coach Kenneth Rowe, former coach of Nigeria, he's really shown maturity in the way he's guided that team. But I think Egypt will be too strong for them. I think that Mo Salah, Mamouche, the last game was a dead rubber. They didn't need to field their stars, so they rested those guys. But I think that they will be a bit too strong for Benin in this game. So I'm going for Egypt, straight up.
Now we've got our home country, Niger. They're in there with Mozambique. Surface level observation, if you didn't watch a single game. Nigeria, winning record going into the knockout stages. Actual reality. Too many late game scares. And Mozambique, obviously, they make a very rare appearance in the knockouts. Is Nigeria going to just overwhelm Mozambique in this one? Or are we going to get, because we've already seen in, another tournament that will not be mentioned at all, that they can sometimes lose games they shouldn't. So, is this one where they completely overwhelm Mozambique? Or is there just that window that Mozambique can climb through to make it to the round of 8?
Mozambique against Nigeria, if I think back to all the games that I've seen them play against Nigeria, they've always proven to be very difficult opponents for Nigeria. And I remember this World Cup qualifier in 2009 when it took like almost a late victor.
Sorry, you're a bit quiet.
Yeah, I'm saying that the Mozambique versus Nigeria, very, very tricky games. And I remember in 2009, they were in the same World Cup qualifying group. And I was in Abuja for the game where Nigeria needed a late header from Victor Obin and Sofo to get a 1-0 win. And then the final qualifiers that got them to the tournament, they won 3. I think it was before that, they won 3-2 away. So it's always been very close. I think that this team, if Eric Chell gets his selection right, then Nigeria will be too strong for Mozambique. People have said so much about the times when Nigeria have won through their groups and then suddenly imploded. But I think this team already has enough motivation from the fact that they failed to qualify for the World Cup. And they see this AFCON as an opportunity for them to kind of find redemption. But I believe strongly that they know what's at stake, and they definitely will. I mean, they've got Osne Guavon as technical director of the NFF. He was the coach when they won through like this and then lost in the next round against Tunisia. So he will definitely remind them, and I believe that they have the quality, and they also will know what to do about this late scares when they suddenly start conceding goals. So the good thing is he made 8 changes in the last game, and Eric Chell, made 8 changes in the last game, and the guys who came on, about 3 or 4 of them will be pushing for a starting place. So it means that he has the possibility to make very useful substitutions that will put them on the front foot even when they're out there. So it's another game where Nigeria needs to score early. Nigeria needs to pile on the pressure, get a bit more goals, and just keep putting pressure on them. At the end of the day, they need to focus on winning the game, and I certainly believe that Nigeria can pull through, definitely.
And speaking of, you mentioned, of course, you mentioned the World Cup, which I wasn't going to, but you kind of have to. But too many bad memories. Algeria, another team, basically flawless in their group stage. Their key players, Riyad Mahrez, the rising star Ibrahim Massa, they're facing DR Congo. This right here, this feels to me like and like the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Algeria, an incredible attacking. DR Congo, a very strong defensive team that is extremely hard to break up. And we've seen it. We saw it in the World Cup. We've seen it here. World Cup qualifiers, I mean, and we've seen it here. So, who gets the edge here? Who? I guess the spear and shield. I guess, yeah, spear and shield.
Algeria looks like the favorites. They've got so much quality in that team, and I'm particularly pleased to see Zidane's son in goal for them.
Yeah, so if you could speak up.
DRC, like I said, Algeria is a formidable team. They've shown in this tournament how good they can be, but they know that they're gonna have a battle on their hand because DRC have been a team on the rise. They've got so much quality. And so they're going to put up a fight. It's going to be one of those games that to actually look forward to. And I am tempted to predict an upset in this game with DRC upsetting Algeria. And despite all the force that the Algerians have, I think that DRC will shock Algeria. I just have this sneaky feeling that they will do that.
That is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most, honestly. And finally,
yeah, I hope Algeria doesn't do like Nigeria.
Sorry,
they don't go and file a protest after this game.
Yeah, just literally everybody, literally in this whole block of competition needs to just all the way through. You cannot rest, you cannot sleep, you cannot take anybody lightly. Final game here: Cote d'Ivoire versus Burkina Faso. Now that I talk about all the pressure and expectations on the Moroccan team. They're the hosts. They're looked at as the top, if not the top nation, if not one of the top nations in Africa. They've got fandom, home fans there, all that pressure, everything. All of that is noise. It means nothing because all that matters at the end is who gets to lift this trophy. Cote d'Ivoire are the reigning champions. They are the team with the most to lose. Burkina Faso have a chance to say that we not only advanced, but we took out the current champions. What are you expecting from this game? Because they say, we always say, yeah, I know we said with Tanzania, they've got nothing to lose. And yes, sometimes the most dangerous person or team or situation to encounter is when somebody has nothing to lose. But I think the person, the man, the team that has the most to lose is just as dangerous because you're protecting something. They're protecting their status as champions. So, what are you looking at this one?
Cote d'Ivoire, in the last tournament, they struggled initially, and then they found their way to the finals and eventually beat Nigeria, who had beaten them in the group stage. I think that this game they are favorites to go through against Burkina Faso. I definitely believe that the Ivorians have less pressure this time around. Yes, they are champions, but it's not the same pressure as when you are the host country. So they know Burkina Faso very well. Burkina Faso showed their quality when they got to the finals and lost to Nigeria in 2013. This team is maybe not as good as that team, but they are dangerous. And the Ivorians will know pretty well not to underestimate them. But I think the Ivorians have enough quality to scrape through in this game. So it's not one of those games where I expect an upset. I think that the Ivorians will go through.
The first game is actually tonight, of course, that being Sudan and Senegal. And we're going through into the midweek. Which game are you looking forward to actually the most? I think I mentioned already it's Algeria and DR Congo, but for you, which game are you looking forward to the most? Because of maybe just in general, which the kind of game, the kind of play you expect, or just what the result would mean on a grander level, if you're thinking that deeply. So yeah,
I think South Africa against Cameroon is one game that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, obviously Nigeria against Mozambique is a game for all seasons. But I think South Africa against Cameroon is the game that I'm really, really excited about. Yeah, that's the game. That's the game that I think is all to play for. So much so much drama to be expected from that game.
And we love drama in our football, don't we? That's all the time we have for now. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We will see you next time.
All right. Thank you so much.